Were there an 8 hours during which any deed was exempted from law, what would you proceed to accomplish? Hey guys, welcome to the Pattaya Movie Channel. Today we bring you a gripping American horror thriller, Mayheeeeem. The story commences. One day, a cryptic virus suddenly burst out in society. This virus could dramatically enhance people's hormonal levels, instigating ordinarily suppressed emotions to erupt and liberate instantaneously, leads to a decrease in self-restraint, prompting the instincts of living organisms to take predominance. Due to the blood-red eyes of the infected during the outbreak, the media called this virus the Red Eye. As of now, there is no efficacious treatment for this virus. Nonetheless, the government asserts that through mandatory isolation and the application of an antiviral agent, they can promptly impede the spread of the virus. Although the virus itself is not lethal, the infected bear a lethal risk. Among the most infamous cases is none other than Mr. Reed. Following his infection, he killed his superior using an ordinary pen. However, his defense attorney argued those infected were incapable of controlling their emotions. Thus, Mr. Reed should not be held accountable for the consequences of his actions. Ultimately, Mr. Reed was acquitted. The company to which the defense attorney that assisted Mr. Reed belonged is the notorious Tolls Corporation. This corporation conducts its business based on greed, deception, and moral degradation. Initially, Morty, the defense attorney, was an unremarkable functionary. He joined the corporation brimming with enthusiasm and determination to accomplish something substantial. Yet, as his position gradually ascended, he began to realize his gradual loss of himself. Subsequently, he got a swift promotion by the company, followed his assistance in freeing Reed of his charges. Even now, he considers Reed as a consummate criminal. This doesn't prevent him from indulging in his life guilt-free. After the commission of such numerous transgressions, he finally attained his long-desired spacious office. But he has become an unscrupulous scoundrel as a result. On this day, Morty strode into the company with an air of self-assurance. He now holds a mid-level legal analyst position, spotting his colleagues bullying the receptionist. Though his power to intercede is limited, he nevertheless utilized his acumen to extricate the young lady from her predicament. He hoped this act might afford him a more peaceful slumber in the evening, for he has committed countless wicked deeds. Subsequently, he received a call from his sister due to Morty's work-centric lifestyle. Family gatherings have been few and far between. His sister called to inquire about his recent state of affairs. After placating her with a brief conversation, Morty ended the call. He then proceeded to the conference room as per the corporation's instructions, where he was to entertain a client, Jessica. Jessica hoped that Morty could assist in delaying her mortgage payment due date. However, Morty spotted the name of a female shareholder in the contract. Instantly, he comprehended this contract to be a trap laid by the female shareholder. Thus, in order to safeguard his position, he had no choice but to reject Jessica's request and had security escort her out of the company. Once Jessica was escorted from the conference room, Morty consumed a glass of water with a sense of relief. He was aware that he has again accomplished something beneficial for the corporation. However, what he was unaware of was the red-eye virus lurking in the glass he has just consumed. Subsequently, the receptionist opened the door of the conference room, bringing unfavorable news for Morty. Apparently, when she had gone upstairs to deliver documents, she overheard the female director of operations and the boss discussing matters regarding the Wanda Corporation, which Morty was handling. They seemed to be discussing a severe lapse in one of the Wanda Corporation cases. Upon hearing this, Morty pointed out that all Wanda Corporation cases were not under his purview, but the female directors. He was totally in the dark about the matter. Suddenly, he understood the receptionist's implication. He was being the scapegoated. Morty stormed up to the 7th floor. He wished to confront the female director about the Wanda Corporation matter face to face. To his surprise, the female director showed no remorse. She openly admitted that she was setting him up. After all, someone had to bear the responsibility for the Wanda Corporation case, and that person was certainly not going to be her. Although Morty knew the female director was the boss's favorite subordinate, he still dragged her to the top floor. He wished to explain the matter to the boss. What he didn't expect was, the boss was already aware that the female director was in charge of the Wanda Corporation case, but the boss didn't care. He only wanted someone to take the blame. Given that the female director was his favorite subordinate, then Morty should be responsible for this. After all, the female director despised Morty the most. The boss then told Morty to leave his office, unwilling to give up. Morty intended to find another way with his friend Ewan. However, while chatting with Ewan, the female director barged in. The female director informed him that he was fired. This decision was made by a vote from the board of directors, hence Morty had lost all chances. Shortly thereafter, the human resources director brought a stack of contracts into Morty's office, demanding Morty to sign quickly upon seeing the director. Morty realized that he's left with no options. Not only was his future at this company completely ruined, but his legal license might also be revoked due to the Wanda Corporation matter. Simultaneously, a group of fully armed SWAT officers suddenly surrounded the building of the Tolls Corporation. They isolated the office building entirely with yellow warning tape. By the time Morty arrived on the first floor escorted by security, he found he's unable to leave elsewhere. At the top floor of the company, the boss and the members of the board were communicating with government officials downstairs. The government officials stated that their sensors had detected the red-eye virus in the building. According to the law, they had the authority to quarantine the entire company. Although they had released virus neutralizers in the building's ventilation system, these neutralizers wouldn't completely kill the virus until 8 hours later. Therefore, until then, the building would be fully quarantined. All the people in the building could do now is to try to relax. It is crucial not to be under stress. Surprisingly, when the call ended, the boss decided to keep everyone working as usual. He didn't want the employees to rest for 8 hours. That would cost him a significant amount of money for no good reason. In the building, instances of violent behavior have started to emerge, yet the boss remained indifferent. He notified his subordinates that from this moment on, no one was allowed to rest without permission or they would be promptly dismissed. In the following instant, a subordinate informed the boss that Morty had just entered the elevator seeking a meeting with board members and the boss himself. Hearing this, the boss sensed impending trouble. He did not believe that Morty intended to have a simple chat for safety. He sent his top enforcer, a man nicknamed the Bull, to deal with Morty. Subsequently, Bull and his team captured Morty. Taking him to the basement under the boss's directive, they brutally assaulted him as Morty was being beaten. Ewan unexpectedly burst into the basement. He was there to rescue Morty. However, he was no match for the Bull. With a few careless punches, Bull forced him back against a wall where, unbeknownst to them, a sharp nail protruded. Thus, the back of Ewan's head was pierced by the nail, resulting in a gruesome death. Everyone present was shocked by this scene. At this moment, the boss inquired about the situation. Upon learning of Ewan's demise, he was incensed. Not out of any pity for Ewan, but rather because he believed it would be difficult to find a quick replacement for Ewan's role. Bull then asked the boss what they should do about the killing. The boss indicated that, with the Reed case as a precedent, the virus is their get-out-of-jail-free card. Anything that happens within these 8 hours carries no legal responsibility. All thanks to Morty's previous actions. As he was the one to identify this legal loophole, Morty overheard the boss's words. He would like to lash out at the boss. But before he could utter a word, he was knocked unconscious by a punch from the Bull. As he fades into unconsciousness, he vaguely heard the boss ordering him to be locked up with another individual. Before long, Morty regained consciousness from his stupor. He found a person by his side. It was Jessica. As it turned out, Jessica could not leave due to the police's lockdown. She was then detained here by the security. Just like Morty, Jessica was now infected by the virus. They started to spit at each other, expressing their disdain, following which a fight ensued as Jessica pinned Morty down. Preparing to continue her assault, Morty hurriedly explained the virus's absolution. He indicated that their objectives aligned now. He wished to confront the boss at the top floor, and the female shareholder who framed Jessica was also there. Thus, they could collaborate to accomplish this, even if it involves a bit of violence. After all, they could claim that they were under the influence of the virus. After pondering for a moment, Jessica agreed to cooperate decisively. Utilizing a phone he assembled in the basement, Morty revealed the boss's wrongdoings to Wanda Corporation. Upon learning this, Wanda Corporation promptly terminated their contract with the boss via video call. This enraged the boss. He ordered 2 security guards to head down to the basement to teach Morty a painful lesson. He wanted Morty to wish he was dead. Subsequently, the 2 guards stormed into the basement before they could react. They were ambushed by Morty. At this point, Morty was deeply infected by the virus. His mind was consumed by vengeful fury. He decided to make the boss pay in blood. When Morty snapped back to reality, he found that he had beaten the guards to a bloody pulp. Morty then took a key to the first floor from the guards and pried a nearby tool room. After all, one needs equipment for a revenge mission. He and Jessica then armed themselves with hammers, wrenches, screwdrivers, electric saws, and even nail guns. They decided to utilize these tools for their revenge. Then Morty told Jessica that they first needed to get to the 6th floor to find the Director of Human Resources for the Level 2 key card. Then with the key card, they could get to the 7th floor to confront the woman who set him up and get the Level 3 key card. This would allow them to reach the top floor and take down the boss. However, plans are always subject to changes. As Morty and Jessica arrived at the director's door, Jessica was instantly brought down by a stun gun from behind. Turned out that it was done by the guards sent by the boss. At this point, the entire office building was in complete chaos. Except for the top floor, everyone was venting their emotions with abandon. Amidst the chaos, Morty seized the opportunity, successfully knocking the 2 guards down just as he confidently reached for the key card next to the director. The director drew a pair of scissors, nailing Morty's hand onto the table. The director then swiftly tackled the stunned Jessica and prepared to finish her off with the nail gun. With the hustle and bustle crowd outside the door, Jessica sliced the director with the electric saw. Before long, Morty filmed a video to the board of directors. He informed them that it was a fortunate thing that the boss told him about the virus's absolution. Now, the boss should stay put at the top floor and wait for him. He would come up to meet him shortly. At the end of the video, Morty used a cigarette to set the director's corpse ablaze. This video terrified both the board of directors at the top floor and the boss. So in order to prevent Morty from reaching the top floor, the boss offered the female executive a partnership, successfully persuading her to toss the key card downstairs. However, the female executive handed the key card to her secretary, as she wanted to have a backup plan for herself. Meanwhile, the board of directors was once again in video communication with government officials. At this point, the people on the top floor were gradually affected by the virus. The boss audaciously ingested drug on the table in front of the government officials. Upon receiving the message that the government would not dispatch special police forces into the office building, the boss smashed the screen on the spot. Subsequently, he announced to everyone on the 7th floor that whoever kills Morty would receive a bounty of $450,000. This action directly turned Morty into a target of public anger. By the time Morty and Jessica arriving at the 7th floor, they saw that the female executive was already waiting with a group of people. After a brutal fight, they finally reached the female executive. At this point, the female executive ordered her secretary to bring out the key card. She certainly did not wish to be beaten to death by Morty. However, the secretary burned the key card on the spot. It turned out that the boss also bought her off for safety. Then, the secretary, who had harbored deep resentment under the influence of the virus, took up the scissors and stabbed the female executive to death. Morty then filmed another video for the boss. In the video, Morty declared that he would be up soon. Then, Morty mocked that the secretary was a little off. As she had cut off the female executive's tongue, it seemed that she was well suited to work here. Following that, Morty and Jessica started to confess their feelings to each other. Afterward, under the influence of the virus, they made love on the spot. After their intimate moment, Morty suddenly thought of a method to go upstairs. He colluded with the company's tech department to steal all the data from the female shareholder's computer. He then used this to blackmail the female shareholder into handing over her key card. That card gives direct access to the top floor. Before long, Morty and Jessica met the female shareholder on the 7th floor. However, all this was known by the boss. He intentionally let the female shareholder go. Suddenly, the bull appeared and ambushed Morty. The female shareholder also successfully ambushed Jessica using a cigarette butt. Thus, the 4 individuals commenced their fighting. During the fighting, the bull willingly discarded his handgun. He planned to beat Morty to death using his brass knuckles. Morty, not backing down, brandished a screwdriver and lunged at the bull, but he was no match for the bull. Just as the bull, suppressing Morty, prepared to torment him with a pepper spray. Morty shockingly opened his mouth to block the pepper spray. He then promptly spit the pepper spray into the bull's face. The bull instantly clutched his eyes and howled in pain. Morty seized the opportunity to deal with him by using the screwdriver. Afterwards, Morty agreed to the female shareholder's request. He knocked Jessica down from behind, totally unprepared. He planned to exchange Jessica for the key card. Then, as he left, he he passionately kissed Jessica, who was tied to the chair by the time the female shareholder watched him get on the elevator. She noticed that he had the chair's screws in his hand, it turned out, when Morty was tying up Jessica. He had already removed the screws from the chair. His aim in kissing Jessica was also to pass the screws to her. This way, Jessica would understand that he was only pretending to tie her up. At this point, the female shareholder sensed something and turned around. She saw the menacing Jessica already holding a screwdriver walking towards her. Shortly, Morty successfully arrived at the top floor. By this time, the board members had prepared a welcoming party with fine wine. The boss also handed him a partnership contract. Then, two alluring female secretaries walked straight up to Morty. They whispered into Morty's ear. If Morty signed the contract, both of them would belong to Morty. At this moment, money, beautiful women, and power were all within Morty's reach. His heart began to waver. He knew that signing the contract would fulfill his life's goals in a minute. However, at this moment, he saw the contract he brought for Jessica. Then, he rejected this proposition. Who would have thought? The next second, the two secretaries shattered their wine glasses and thrusted the shards at Morty. Morty dodged in time and successfully knocked them to the ground. At this moment, the boss removed his suit, picked up a golf club, and slowly walked to one side. Morty also picked up a wrench and faced off against the boss. In an instant, the wrench and golf club collided. As Morty was assaulting the boss with his fists, the boss shockingly tossed drugs from his pocket towards Morty. Morty's eyes became momentarily blind. Fortunately, he rolled to one side just in time, dodging the boss's fatal strike. By the time his eyes started to clear, he saw the boss preparing to switch his golf club. So he seized the opportunity to repeatedly pound the boss with his fists. Then he dragged the boss over to the railing. He wanted the boss to take a good look at the board members. Those people were eagerly waiting for him to throw the boss off the building. They would deal with the shares and wealth left by the boss appropriately. At this moment, the board members one by one made a throat-slitting gesture towards Morty. They had voted on the fate of the boss. Following this, Morty landed a punch, knocking the boss over the railing. The boss thus fell to his death. Then, under the watch of the board, he became the new boss. However, he resigned immediately after resolving Jessica's case. He did not wish to become a heartless beast. Shortly after quarantine was lifted, Morty and Jessica walked hand in hand out of the office building. They were about to start a new life, a life without deception and heartlessness. The entire movie satirizes the cutthroat office life from another angle, as well as the behavior of bosses exploiting their employees. It can be considered a different kind of decompression movie. After all, everyone has some complaints about their bosses in their hearts. But what this film actually wants to tell everyone is, don't become a slave to your work. Apart from work, one's personal life also matters. All right, as usual, if you have any other thoughts on this movie, please feel free to leave a comment. And if you like my content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you next time.